During 1946, a famished 12-year-old German youth infiltrated an American army installation to take bread. The servicemen who apprehended him possessed full authority to detain him, perhaps even fire on him. Conversely, he took an action that would permanently alter both of their existences. This is the factual account of how a single gesture of compassion transformed adversaries into relatives. The loaf is still heated in Klaus Fischer's grasp when the torchlight illuminates him. He stops cold in the passageway behind the American supply post in Frankfurt, half a loaf of white bread held tight against his torso, like pilfered treasure. The beam obscures his vision. He is unable to make out the soldier's features, just the shadowed silhouette of a U.S. uniform and the firearm carried on his back. This is the end. This is the way I perish. The serviceman advances. Klaus's limbs refuse to respond. His elder sibling Heinrich's caution resonates in his thoughts. They will gun you down for swiping so much as an apple. These are the very brutes who destroyed our towns, Klaus. They possess no compassion. Yet Klaus's mother had not eaten in 3 days, not since she bartered her wedding band for black market flour. His small sister Greta sobs herself to sleep each night, her belly so vacant it has begun to distend. What alternative did he have? The American speaks something in English, abrasive, throaty noises Klaus cannot comprehend. The serviceman is perhaps 25, with dark hair and weary eyes that appear more aged than his features. He is approaching nearer now, one hand extending. Klaus prepares for the strike. Instead, the soldier's digits touch the loaf softly, almost cautiously. He doesn't snatch it away. He doesn't hit him. He merely gazes at it, then at Klaus, then again at the bread. "You hungry?" the serviceman inquires in fractured, strongly accented German. Klaus affirms with his head. Since what other option does he have? His entire frame is trembling from chill, from fright, from the 3 pounds he has dropped this month alone. The American performs an act Klaus will recollect in his mind 1,000 times during the following 70 years. He snaps off a portion of the bread, gives it back to Klaus, and indicates the depot kitchen entrance. Tomorrow. Morning. You arrive. Work. Klaus gapes at the bread in his grasp, then at the serviceman, then again at the bread. This is a snare. They are brutal. They wish to degrade me prior to disciplining me. Yet the serviceman is already moving off, back toward the depot entryway. He halts at the doorway, pivots, and utters one more word Klaus would always remember: promise. Klaus was unaware at that moment, but that fragment of bread would sustain him for the subsequent 70 years. Klaus refrains from going to the depot the following morning. He stays in the corner of their communal room. 3 families packed into one half of a demolished structure in the Norden area. The loaf sectioned into precise portions. A fragment for Mama, a fragment for Greta, a fragment for him. He masticates deliberately, making it last, savoring actual flour for the first time in months. The other households watch their shares with hunger, yet nobody inquires about its origin. It was a deception. He was ridiculing me. If I return, they will be there to detain me. Yet the loaf is gone by nighttime. Greta is weeping once more, that feeble, spent sound of a system giving up. And Klaus cannot cease contemplating the serviceman's face, not irate, not repulsed, merely weary and perhaps sorrowful. Tomorrow, he had stated, you come. Work. Klaus had been conditioned to anticipate monsters. In the junior Hitler Youth, lads too juvenile for the primary association. His teacher, Herr Vogel, had displayed posters affixed to all Frankfurt street corners. Aquiline-nosed fiends in U.S. uniforms, hauling German youths away, behind the opposing forces, the Jew. A different one showing GIs with the catchphrase, "They will dishonor our females, kill our young. This is the cost of their Jewish controllers' vengeance." Klaus had accepted every word. His father perished in the firebombing of March 1944, smashed beneath debris, while Klaus and his relatives cowered in a refuge 4 blocks distant. 11-year-old Klaus assisted in identifying his corpse by his wedding band. His mother relocated them to her sister's farmstead near Wiesbaden, where they endured the last year consuming potato skins and gathered vegetation. His uncle went with the People's Militia in March 1945, a 62-year-old male with a hunting firearm confronting U.S. tanks. They didn't ever locate his remains. When the Americans appeared, Klaus had concealed in the storage cellar with Greta and his mother, anticipating the shrieks Herr Vogel swore would come. Yet the shrieks did not materialize. Instead, there was silence, then speech in English. Then his mother came out to discover American servicemen establishing a medical station in the town center, attending to German non-combatants next to their own injured. Klaus had been unsure what to make of it. They had gone back to Frankfurt's remnants in July 1945. Their residence building was absent, only bricks and warped steel and recollections reduced to soot, and the starvation, ceaseless, biting starvation, that made food a fixation, a fantasy, a fable from the previous era. The U.S. depot had started operating in their area in early 1946, storehouses full of sustenance Klaus could detect from blocks distant. The aroma of actual bread, of leavening and butter, items that were part of his grandmother's kitchen prior to the conflict. It made him frantic. He had attempted stealing twice previously. On one occasion, a British serviceman cuffed his ears and made him flee. The next instance, he had let fall a can of beans, observing it break open upon the paving stones while he cried with exasperation. The previous night, he had been so certain he had at last succeeded, until he had collided directly with Private James Crawford of Louisville, Kentucky. Klaus goes the following morning. He nears the depot from the main entrance this time, in the daytime, his heart pounding so fiercely he thinks it might break his ribs. The U.S. guard at the entrance, a large man with red hair and spots, gazes down at him and speaks something in English. Klaus stutters. "Serviceman yesterday?" He spoke work. The guard chuckles, genuinely chuckles, a loud noise that causes Klaus to wince and motions him past, indicates toward the kitchen structure. They are all part of it. They have been anticipating. But when Klaus shoves open the kitchen entrance, just a single individual is present. The identical serviceman from the prior evening, positioned at a metal counter, slicing produce with a blade that could cleave Klaus in half. Private Crawford glances up. His expression forms a grin, an authentic grin reaching his eyes. "You arrived," he states in that fractured German. "Good. Good lad." Klaus remains stiff in the entrance, prepared to run. Crawford places the blade down cautiously, deliberately, where Klaus can observe it is not in his grasp anymore. He moves to a rack and takes down an apron, grown-up size. It would engulf Klaus and holds it out. "You work," Crawford states, motioning to the potatoes stacked on the surface. "You eat, equitable, yes?" Klaus remains still, unable to shift. His mind is shouting opposing thoughts. He is laying a snare, but he is grinning. They harm children, but he set down the blade. Americans are beasts, but he gave me food yesterday. Crawford exhales. He selects one of the potatoes, retrieves a parer, and starts demonstrating in an overly slow motion. Peel, wash, slice. Peel, wash, slice. He pushes the parer across the surface toward Klaus. "You attempt, show me." Klaus's hands tremble as he takes up the parer. He has pared thousands of potatoes in his existence. It has formed the bulk of his nutrition for 2 years, yet under Crawford's scrutiny, he bungles. The parer slides. A narrow streak of blood appears on his thumb. He pulls back, anticipating discipline for being awkward, ridicule for being feeble. Crawford utters a quiet noise, "Ah, hell," and moves rapidly, but not to hit. He snatches a fresh rag, runs it under the tap, and extends for Klaus's hand. Klaus withdraws automatically. Crawford pauses, holds the rag out, does not move closer. "It is all right," he says gently. "Allow me to see. I assist. I assist." Not, I order. Not, you have to. I assist. Klaus gradually, so gradually, offers his hand. Crawford's contact is soft as he binds the cloth around Klaus's thumb, using just sufficient pressure to halt the bleeding. His hands are heated, calloused from labor, not smooth like Klaus expected from Americans he was informed existed in luxury while Germans went hungry. There, Crawford says. All right now. Attempt once more. Slow. I will demonstrate better. He shows again, this time standing beside Klaus, directing his hands without compelling them. Peel, wash, slice. Peel, wash, slice. When Klaus finishes his first potato correctly, Crawford taps his shoulder a short, solid contact. Good. Very good. Klaus holds back tears he cannot comprehend. They labor quietly for an hour. Crawford does not force dialogue, does not pose inquiries. He simply works alongside Klaus, sometimes correcting his method, once fetching a stool when he observes Klaus having difficulty reaching the surface comfortably. At noon, Crawford retrieves 2 plates. He fills both with the stew he was preparing, thick with meat and vegetables, more sustenance than Klaus has witnessed in one location since 1944. He places 1 plate in front of Klaus. They consume the meal together. The meat is unlike anything Klaus recalls. Flavorful, soft, swimming in sauce that soaks into the bread, Crawford rips from a new loaf. Klaus attempts to eat deliberately, attempts to maintain some decorum, but his system fails him. He is forcing food into his mouth, sauce running down his chin. Crawford does not chuckle, does not remark, just pushes his own bread over the table so Klaus can wipe up the last of the sauce. When Klaus at last glances up, tears flowing down his face from thankfulness or embarrassment or bewilderment. He cannot tell. Crawford is observing him with an expression Klaus has never seen directed at him before from a grown-up who is not his mother. Empathy. You have relatives? Crawford inquires carefully. Mother? Father? Sister? Brother? Mother, Klaus murmurs. Sister. Little. 6 years. Crawford nods gradually. Then he rises, moves to the supply cupboard, and retrieves a canvas sack. He stocks it methodically, a loaf of bread, a can of meat, a container of preserves, a little bag of flour. Items that would require a month's allowances on the illicit market. Items valued higher than his mother's wedding band. He offers out the sack. Klaus gapes at it. At him. Again, at the sack. Why? Why are you performing this act? For your relatives, Crawford states. You arrive tomorrow. Labor again. Each day you labor, you take food home. Yes? Why? The word comes out before Klaus can stop it in German. Warum? Crawford's expression changes, something agonizing, passing across it like a shade. He puts his hand in his pocket and retrieves a photograph, folded and aged. He displays it to Klaus, a female with dark hair, and a lad, perhaps 8 years of age, both grinning at the camera. My spouse, Crawford says softly. My son, Tommy. Identical age as your sister when I depart for conflict, he traces the lad's face with his digit. I think. If my Tommy is famished, if he must take food to eat, I wish someone assists him, someone is compassionate. Yes? Klaus accepts the sack with shaking hands. Danky, he murmurs. Crawford grins. Tomorrow. You arrive tomorrow. Klaus races home with the sack held to his torso, the heaviness of it more precious than gold. But it is not the sustenance that causes him to weep as he dashes through the ruined avenues of Frankfurt. It is the picture of a small lad named Tommy and the manner Crawford's voice had cracked when he had said, I wish someone is compassionate. Klaus returns the next day and the next and the next. Initially, he is still anticipating the snare to activate. He labors swiftly, productively, barely speaking except to confirm instructions. He accepts the food Crawford provides him and departs as soon as he is allowed. He poses no inquiries, does not maintain eye contact longer than required. Remain helpful. Don't provide him a cause to alter his decision. Yet Crawford is dependable. Each day, the identical procedure. Work, eat together, bring food home. And each day Crawford speaks with him. Just small things at first about the weather, about the tasks. Basic German terms Crawford is acquiring, chuckling at his own awful pronunciation. Tales about Kentucky that are nonsensical to Klaus. A thing named bluegrass and equines galloping in loops for recreation. Klaus begins getting there sooner, remaining longer. He masters the routine so well that Crawford can step away and trust Klaus to proceed with the work. He masters anticipating what is needed. Items retrieved before Crawford requests, implements washed and ready, areas prepped for the day's food preparation. He begins posing inquiries, cautious ones initially. What is this? Indicating an unfamiliar vegetable. How do you create this? Observing Crawford prepare meals Klaus has never seen. Crawford responds to every query with tolerance, frequently augmenting his fractured German with theatrical pantomime that causes Klaus to show his first real grin in over a year. For 14 days, Klaus returned each morning. Then one day a sergeant burst into the kitchen. A different serviceman enters while they are laboring, a tall man with sergeant insignia who starts talking quickly in English, motioning at Klaus. Klaus goes stiff. This is the moment. Someone observed. Someone reported. The sergeant's tone elevates. Crawford's tone elevates to match it. They are debating. Klaus can tell from the sound even though he cannot comprehend the words. The sergeant indicates the door. Crawford moves between Klaus and the sergeant, his form creating a shield. At last, the sergeant raises his hands and rushes out. Crawford pivots to Klaus, his face reddened. "You all right?" He searches for words in German. He says regulations. I say. He performs a rejecting gesture. You stay. You labor here. Okay? You, Klaus's voice is small. You argued for me? Crawford appears taken aback by the question. Naturally, you are a good laborer. You, good lad. Something fractures in Klaus's chest. He is 12 years of age. He has endured a conflict. He has observed his city ignite. He has taken things to keep his sister living, and now an American serviceman is calling him a good lad and protecting him against his own superior. All the things they informed me were false. The understanding strikes him simultaneously. Like the instant the incendiary bomb hit his building, that identical feeling of his reality shattering and reforming into something unknown. Crawford misinterprets his quiet for fright. Hey, it is all right. You are secure here. I vow. Okay? Okay, Klaus murmurs. Klaus would subsequently state the sergeant's appearance was the instant he stopped being fearful. Yet that morning, positioned in that kitchen with Crawford's hand on his shoulder, he experienced something he had not experienced since before his father's passing. Secure. One morning in early May, a cluster of German men, ex-servicemen, Klaus identifies them by their posture, even in non-military attire, stand outside the depot barrier, shouting abuses. Turncoat lad, American favorite, you forsake your people for leftovers. Klaus experiences embarrassment sear in his stomach, yet Crawford's hand rests on his shoulder. They are incorrect, Crawford says firmly. You are not a turncoat. You endure. You assist your family. That is not disgrace. That is courageous. But hear me. Crawford bends down to Klaus's eye height. Conflict over. Germany defeated. I am not pleased about conflict. You are not pleased about conflict. But conflict over now. Now we. He searches for the word, then creates a construction motion with his hands. Now we construct anew. Jointly. Yes? They claim Americans are... Klaus stops himself. The terms from his indoctrination are still present, attempting to emerge. Americans are criminals. Americans are Jewish marionettes. Americans are... Claim what? Crawford coaxes gently. Klaus moves his head. Nothing. They are incorrect. They. He inhales. You are not what they describe. Crawford's grin is sorrowful. We are not all virtuous. Some U.S. servicemen, He performs a motion Klaus interprets as not compassionate. Some are wicked, some are virtuous, like all individuals. Like Germans, some are wicked, some are virtuous. Yes? It is the most basic thing anyone has ever stated to Klaus, and it dismantles everything. Some are virtuous, some are wicked. Like all individuals, not beasts, not fiends, not a singular force of malice descending on Germany to annihilate it, merely individuals. Crawford's associate taught Klaus English during midday pauses. Klaus was eager for it, frantic to comprehend. He was skilled at it, too, his youthful mind soaking up the new tongue faster than Crawford could accept. In late May, Crawford delivers forms, applications for the German Youth Academy the occupying powers have established. He has already completed most of it. You labor morning, attend school afternoon, I speak to your mother. Explain, okay? But academy vital, Crawford insists. You intelligent, you require education, cannot labor kitchen permanently, must have prospects. Klaus's eyes burn. You wish me to depart? No. Crawford looks horrified. No. I wish you to have good existence. Big existence. Superior than. He motions at the kitchen. The depot. The remnants outdoors. Superior to this. That evening, Klaus tells his mother all. About the thieving, about Crawford, about the work, about the academy papers. He anticipates fury for deceiving, for placing himself in danger, for laboring for the occupiers. Conversely, Anna Fischer sobs. She draws Klaus into her embrace. She is so frail now, he can sense every bone and murmurs Danke Gott. Danke Gott. The following morning, she accompanies him to see Crawford. She is attired in her finest dress, mended and worn, but clean. She has brushed her hair. She is attempting to possess dignity before the American who has been nourishing her children. Crawford grips her hand politely, speaks deliberately in his fractured German. Your son, very fine laborer, very intelligent. You have good lad. Anna's voice trembles. I am unable to compensate you. I possess nothing to, no pay needed. Crawford cuts in softly. He labor. I nourish. That is pay, and he offers out a bigger bag than usual, stocked with provisions, flour, sugar, tinned milk, coffee, for you, for your relatives. Anna accepts the bag with shaking hands. Then, ere Crawford can respond, she kisses his hand, a motion of deep thankfulness Klaus has only witnessed in church. Bit, she murmurs. Bit. Danke. Thank you, thank you. Crawford's eyes are moist. He cautiously frees his hand and instead presents a handshake, courteous between equals. You're welcome, he says. Your son, he good lad. He make you pleased. Returning home, Anna holds Klaus's hand, a thing she has not done since he was little. This male, she says softly. This American. He is virtuous man. Yes, Klaus concurs. They deceived us about everything. Yes. She halts walking, regards him directly. You have to recall this, Klaus. You must remember that when they inform you someone is your adversary, when they tell you to despise people you have not encountered, when they inform you the world is basic and clear, they are deceiving. Do you comprehend? Klaus affirms. I comprehend, Mama. Good. She presses his hand. Now you accept this present, this work, this sustenance, this opportunity to attend school again, and you utilize it. You construct a good existence, a life that would make your father pleased. I shall, Klaus vows. I shall. Crawford returned home in August 1946. Klaus was unaware it was his final day until Crawford informed him that morning, his expression deliberately impassive. I return to America tomorrow, back to my spouse, my son. But you... He motioned at Klaus, at the kitchen where Klaus now labored with confidence, at the academy texts Klaus carried to read during quiet periods. You proceed. You resilient now. You have prospects. Klaus wanted to weep but was 12 and attempting to be a man. His English was improved now but still halting. I not forget. You rescued my existence, my family's existence. Crawford moved his head resolutely. No, you rescued your existence. You courageous enough to return that following day. You courageous enough to have faith. He searched for words. I just attempt to be compassionate. That is all. He retrieved a packet. Inside was a note of reference composed in precise English, describing Klaus as a dependable, diligent, bright young male appropriate for any subsequent employment. At the end was Crawford's address in Kentucky. You message me, Crawford said. Inform me when you complete academy. Inform me about your existence. Okay. Okay, Klaus murmured. They gripped hands. The identical polite hand grip Crawford had given Klaus's mother between peers. Recall Crawford's picture of Tommy? That image would journey back to Kentucky with Klaus 43 years subsequently. Klaus Fisher went to the Occupation Academy, then Trade College. He turned into an electrical engineer laboring on the rebuilding of Frankfurt's systems. In 1952, he composed his first letter to Crawford informing him about his graduation, about Greta beginning school herself, about his mother who was well again, employed as a seamstress. Crawford replied with a photograph, him and Tommy both grinning, Tommy now an adolescent. I informed him about you, Crawford wrote, about the courageous lad who returned even when he was frightened. He wishes to see you one day. They exchanged letters for 47 years. Klaus traveled to Kentucky one time in 1989, bringing his own 2 daughters to see the male who had altered his existence. Crawford was silver-haired now, pensioned, but he had not ceased cooking. He made Klaus and his daughters the identical stew he had prepared that initial day, heavy with meat and produce, offered with new bread. Still finest meal I ever savor, Klaus told him, and they both chuckled. When Crawford passed away in 1993, Klaus flew back to Kentucky for the service. He positioned himself before the assembled family and friends, most of them unknown, and told them about an evening in 1946 when a famished lad tried to take bread and discovered something more precious than sustenance. He returned to me my humanity, Klaus said, his English now effortless, but still bearing the inflection of his younger days. When all I had been instructed was brutality, when I anticipated discipline, he offered me respect. He offered me labor. He offered me hope. He did not perceive a German youth, an adversary's youth. He perceived a famished lad, and he fed him. This single male's compassion, this one man's kindness, this one man's kindness. Tommy Crawford, silver-haired himself now, Klaus's age, hugged him following the service. Dad told me tales about you my entire existence. He said you instructed him something too, that compassion is not just about large displays. At times, it is merely about observing someone who is famished and sharing your bread. Klaus went back to Germany and spent the next decade delivering lectures at academies about the occupation era, about mending relations, about the significance of perceiving humanity in people you have been instructed to dread. I was instructed that Americans were beasts, he would tell pupils. And then I encountered one U.S. serviceman and everything I had been instructed disintegrated. Not because he delivered addresses about peace, but because he was compassionate when he possessed every cause not to be. Klaus Fisher passed away in 2016 at the age of 82. His death notice cited his labor as an engineer, his relatives, his involvement in German-American fellowship societies. Yet in his desk, his daughters discovered a box containing every letter Crawford had mailed him, the picture of Tommy from that initial day in the kitchen, and a sheet of paper aged smooth from folding and unfolding. It was Crawford's note of reference, composed in precise English in 1946. At the end, in faint pencil, Klaus had written in German, "The day I discovered that compassion is more powerful than hate." His daughters gave the collection to the German Historical Museum in Berlin, where it is currently a piece of an exhibition on the post-conflict era. Pupils stand before the exhibit, reading the messages, observing the photographs, understanding about a lad who stole bread and a serviceman who selected empathy. The last message in the collection, written by Klaus to Crawford's widow following Crawford's death, contains one line that museum staff frequently quote, Your spouse instructed me that we are not defined by who we are told to despise, but by who we choose to assist. This is the only lesson worth teaching, the only legacy worth leaving. Inform your children. Inform your grandchildren. When you observe someone famished, nourish them. When you observe someone frightened, console them. When you observe someone who anticipates brutality, offer them kindness instead. This is how we construct a superior world, not with large pronouncements, but with one individual, one instant, one decision at a time. The loaf Klaus took that evening in 1946 cost perhaps 20 cents in U.S. currency. The existence it resulted in was beyond price. Thank you for viewing. Trust you discovered something interesting today. Press that like icon, distribute it with companions, and I will meet you in the subsequent video.